Over and unders were published for SEC teams as far as win totals go for the upcoming season. Schedules were announced earlier this week. Then from there, you're starting to see some of the gambling odds coming out. And then you get a total of number of wins for SEC teams, and LSU's sits at 6.5 T, according to the latest sports book that published the win totals. LSU sitting at 6.5. Alabama's got the most wins as far as the over and under is concerned going into the season at 7.5. Georgia has 7. Florida has 7, and then the line moves a half a point with LSU and Texas A&M sitting at 6.5 wins. How do you feel about it?
I think that there's a few interesting things to point out here. First off, we've talked a lot about how a 10-game SEC-only schedule changes expectations overall, right? We have tried to find the line of what is an acceptable record in this new schedule because you're not playing 12. You don't have these kind of pointless cupcake type of games. And so what I did is I went and looked up last year's over-under totals, and you compare them to this year, and I think actually a clear cutoff line starts to emerge, Jordy. And so you look this year, Alabama leading the way at 7.5 on their over-under. Georgia second at 7, tied with Florida, and then LSU coming in right at them at 6.5. Very similar to last year, where you had Bama with an over-under of 11 wins. You had UGA with an over-under of 10.5, and then you had LSU with an over-under of 9. So when I look at this list, what I think this is telling me is that elite team cutoff, if you want to be in that SEC championship competition or be right there in the mix through the end, you're going to have to carry an 8-2 record. Now I still think somebody probably goes 9-1. I don't know that I think anybody goes 10-0, but after last year with LSU, who knows? It's certainly a possibility somebody pulls that off. But that said, if you are a fan, and we play this game all the time, you're like, okay, what's the acceptable bar for LSU? The unquestioned success, in my opinion, would be hitting 8-2 in that 10-game regular season. And granted, people may hold LSU to a higher standard now. I don't know. That said, I would say smash the over here.
Crush the over.
7 wins?
I mean, I had to double take when I saw it.
7 wins hits?
6.5?
That's what I'm saying.
It feels like a steal. It feels like a steal.
I mean,
usually when it feels like that, it backfires on you and you got to pay up. But this feels like, it looks like a sucker bet on paper, right? I mean, but last week when the coaches put them in the top 5, I was throwing so many bouquets of respect towards them because of that class doing their homework, because I feel like LSU is a top 5 team. I feel like they are a contender. Well, and when I look at their schedule and I go down the schedule, I'm trying to pick out where the wins and losses are.
It feels more like a steal when you see the schedule now.
That's the thing. LSU, and again, me and Brody broke this down at length on the pod yesterday. LSU got the easiest schedule, or the best schedule in the SEC. Maybe not the easiest overall because they play in the West versus the East, but in terms of opponents added, in terms of the flow of the schedule,
absolutely,
in terms of where the bye is, the home and away, they have the most favorable schedule. And so, where are the losses? Where's the 4 losses?
I agree. Somebody knock my purple and gold glasses off as I go down this schedule and I tell you how I feel. I mean, tell me if you feel differently. Speak up, please. Mississippi State I got as a W.
That's a win.
I'd take the 26 right now. Vanderbilt is a win in Nashville in week 2. Missouri back in Baton Rouge in week 3 feels like a win.
Yeah.
Florida on the road is a swing game.
Let's just say it's a loss. Just say it's a loss.
South Carolina back at home, you win. On the road at Auburn, swing game. I say Auburn is going to be a pick'em. That feels like it's going to be a pick'em game.
I think it's better that they're catching them there instead of where they were previously scheduled.
Absolutely.
Right before A&M.
When T-Bob laid out that LSU was scheduled winners, I looked at the first thing I saw was the Auburn game moved up from late in the season to where it was originally scheduled to back kind of up at the top of the schedule. Even though it's late October, you're still playing them fairly earlier than you were, as originally scheduled. Alabama at home. Okay. I mean,
say it's a loss. Just say it's a loss. For the purposes of this conversation, we're not trying to think if we actually think that LSU will win or not. We are trying to find 7 guaranteed wins.
Did you have W or L next to Auburn?
I think it comes down to Auburn A&M. If you beat one of those 2 teams, you go to 7 wins.
Okay, so you got Auburn, Alabama back-to-back. Let's just call one of them a loss.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so one of them's a loss. Arkansas at home, you win. At Texas A&M on the road.
That's a swing game.
Swing game,
And then you
yeah.
beat Ole Miss. So
Just
you
because
have,
of the disrespect I have for A&M and the respect
Put it
I
as
have
a
for
W.
LSU, I'm putting
Put
it as a W. It's going to be a tough game. Ole Miss back at home to close out the season.
well, then you're golden. Then you've already
win.
reached 7. If you
There's
put
a
A&M
7.
there, you already got 7. Yeah, you have 6 for sure wins, it looks like. And then it comes down to Florida, Alabama, A&M, and Auburn. A&M and Auburn at the bottom of that list. You beat one of A&M and Auburn, and you will cash that 7-game win total. So, I mean, I'll put money on it. If I can ever get online betting sites to not make me buy Bitcoin, I will put money on it.
I don't know, man. Invest. The dollar's going down.
What?
Cash is
Invest in
going
Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, I've the invest in Bitcoin thing's been happening for like 10, 15 years now. I think
But like
I think
my
I've missed the
investment guy
boat.
told me, when it pops, it's going to be huge, man. You got to buy now. Buy now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Capacity in the stadium, you think they make an announcement on that in the next couple of days?
Alabama did.
Yeah, I saw that.
Alabama came out and said 20% capacity. The SEC, I believe, mandated masks. I think Alabama said that too. Alabama also said no tailgating. So I think as far as a rangefinder for where LSU may be at, that's something important to look at. The SEC, though, is not mandating their own tailgate or crowd restrictions. They are saying that is up to the schools. And then ultimately, it seems like how many people are allowed in the stadium will be decided by where the community is at currently as far as the COVID numbers are.
So like the phases.
Yeah, I would think so. Now, I don't know who makes that decision, right? Is it a politician? Is it, I would imagine it's somebody in the school, but, or I don't know if there's an exact equation where, okay, if per capita, this is your infection rate, then this is how many people you're allowed to have in there. But it does seem like those things are tied together.
We will close out hour 1 next here on Off the Bench.